Hello, everyone. Welcome to my chat today with the wonderful Sally Frawley, food photographer. How are you going, Sally?
Good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you so much for chatting to me today. We're chatting all things mastering food photography because you are the host of our next Click Love Grow creative
So excited.
workshop that kicks off very soon. But tell us where you're from and what is about food photography that got you started and that you really love.
I'm from Eltham in just outside of Melbourne. So I'm on the edge of where the suburbs meet the Yarra Valley. So there's a lot of inspiration over there too, of course. Mad foodie, have loved cooking all my life. Used to spend Saturdays with my nana and we'd bake and all those sort of lovely memories. So that's always inspired me. I started your course, much like most of your students probably wanting to understand what this lovely camera did because obviously nothing matched when I didn't know what I was doing, but the picture was here, but not in the camera. So I did that. I think that was maybe 2015. But my boys were young teenagers then, so not the willing models I thought they would be. I did threaten them at times saying, I help you with your homework, so you have to help me with mine. So I have a few portraits from that course, and that was it. My very first photo submission for, I can't remember what the first assignment is now for enthusiasts, was actually food because they wouldn't help me. So it was my willing participant. And it's always here. There's always loads of food here. I'm always cooking, so it just made sense. So it's
Yeah, I love that. And that's so true. Many of us start because our kids are little and we pick up the camera and we want to take photos, but then they get older and they're busier and they're not as home as much. And so that love of photography is being able to find things around the house, whether it's in the garden or in the kitchen. But what is it for you specifically around food and meals and capturing those images? Because meals are such a family thing, right? We can have a love of cooking because we love feeding people or we love the creating, but then there's that extra element of photography. So, what is it for you that, with the food really brings you joy?
think shooting, because food has so much meaning and so many memories for me throughout my life, I think shooting food connects me to the same emotion that would if my kids would sit down and let me photograph them, because most of the time they're things that I can attach a memory to. If I've made Cornish pasties because my nana taught me when I was a little girl, and there's conversations I've had with my cousins over how it was made now that she's gone. So it always evokes that same sort of emotion and memory that you would get from shooting your kids, I think.
Yeah, I love that. So tell us what you've done now. You've started doing food photography commercially and for clients and as a business side. Tell us about how that's evolved for you and how you incorporate that.
Well, I never really imagined that I would be that person or I would have that level of skill to be able to shoot for others. But I took myself off to a weekend workshop in Orange in New South Wales, with someone who I'd always wanted to do a workshop with, and there were a couple of others there as well. So it was a big adventure for me, and it was really just probably a bit of taking myself away. As much as anything else. And I guess that was a bit of a light bulb and a few things clicked. And two of the presenters there were just women like me that had just started from, well, three of them actually, they were all pretty much like that actually, who just started from being a hobbyist and having a little blog, and things just exploded from there. And of course, the more you do things, the better you get at them. So one of those women was coming to Melbourne soon after that one and said, "Oh, do you want to come and be my assistant for a few shoots?" So that was great.
Fun.
I learnt loads from that, and it lit a bit of a fire in the belly, I guess. So I kept practicing and kept working at it and building contacts and networks and things slowly evolved.
Yeah, so putting yourself out there and just building the confidence from seeing others doing it, but also doing it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's always imposter syndrome. Always, no matter what. I think that I've read quite a few people actually recently, people that have, 30, 40 years in the industry. I was only reading one this morning, and it's the same. I don't think that's something that goes away. I think it's something you just have to accept as part of it.
I think too, it's tied to the standards that we set for ourselves. So, even when people are first learning photography in the enthusiast course, advanced course, there's always that comparisonitis and feeling like you don't belong and feeling like other people are so far ahead. And I think, there's two aspects to it. The first is that you're only seeing people's highlights reel. Like what you see online is just the top layer of what's really happening. Like no one always has their stuff together, but you're seeing this curated view, which is never a fair comparison to what the trudging through of life that all of us do. But I think the other aspect to it as well is that we hold ourselves to a high standard because we really want to achieve something beautiful. We want to create gorgeous images. We want to push ourselves further. And so there is that element that, kind of reframing it, that it's frustrating and that imposter syndrome, but we have that because we desire more and because we want to grow. And so I think it can actually be something positive because if we didn't have any imposter syndrome, maybe that's when the fire's gone out completely and we don't want to push ourselves and we become a little apathetic. So yeah, I think you're so right. Like having that imposter syndrome is really frustrating, but I think, we can use it as an opportunity to propel ourselves towards things that can challenge us and help us get there.
Well, it also shows you, it reminds you that you care about it too, I think.
Yes. Yes. That's what I always say about nerves before a shoot, because I always would want to vomit or cancel a shoot, like always. But then I'd say, no, it's because you care. It's because you care.
You want it to be great. You want everything to go well.
Yes. So you've taken the skills that you have learned and we've put together a beautiful workshop that's going to be running. If you're in Creativity Club, you automatically get added, but it's up for sale. If you're not, it's going to be running for a month. So I have a couple of questions about what's inside the workshop, but first about food photography and some kind of tips. For me, I always like create dishes and I look at them and I think, oh my gosh, this is an amazing, tasty dish, but photographing food is really hard. So what do you think the secret is to being able to photograph food so it looks as good as it tastes and not just like, like a conglomerate of ingredients? You know what I'm trying to say?
I think it is learning how to plate things nicely, not overwhelm the plate. Like
yes, okay.
if you were feeding Harry versus feeding one of the girls, that kind of thing in terms of the amounts and things.
Yes.
Always fresh.
Okay.
Always shoot fresh, straight out of the oven if you have to. So you have everything set up ready to go. Taking the time to have decided your composition and all that sort of thing before the dish is actually ready. So you literally are just plating that fresh plate of food into the set. And always, obviously, like any photography, it's great light, great composition, and they're just things you have to practice. And in terms of light, I think because, especially food photography that you're shooting from home is, spending the time getting to know your light pockets in your house and which one you'd like to use for the most of your work, which one creates one mood versus another. I have I'm east facing on one side, and I've got north light coming at me from this way right now. That's a very bright window at this time of year. That's my favorite window at this time of year because that's too much. Just learning what works for what you're trying to achieve and what doesn't. So it's all of that kind of stuff. It's a lot of what we already know. And in terms of the food, it's about trying to replicate what you see in pictures yourself and keeping it fresh. That's really important because that's where the colors and the textures are.
I love that. Do you have kind of favorite utensils and props and colors that you like to bring in throughout your work?
It's interesting, actually, and particularly composing the workshop. It's one of those things that you work off instinct as you're creating something, and then you step back and go, oh, there's a theme. And that still happens to me. So I like fairly muted backgrounds or rustic textural ones. And I really love creating the cozy sort of photos. But then I love the light and bright ones, like the one I posted on Instagram of a bowl of fruit when I wanted to talk about the course. So I love bringing colour into my images, which is probably why I don't like too much faff in the background, I suppose.
Yeah, I love that.
So to speak.
So let's talk about the workshop then. what can people, I have two questions. What can people expect inside the workshop? So what kind of challenges are you going to be setting for them, and skills are they going to be practicing?
I'm actually most excited for the first one and the last one. Obviously excited about all of them. The first one, I really want everyone to dig into their why, what brings them to this course. So are they like me and needed something that would sit still and then learn, and then, that extra passion grew? Are they bringing things together? Do they want to create a trail of breadcrumbs for their family of all the favorite recipes the family enjoy together, and ones maybe they enjoyed in their own childhood? Do they want to start a blog? Do they grow something that they sell at the market and would like to be able to take nice photos of for themselves? So that's the first challenge, digging into why and creating a photo or an image to share with us to talk about that. And I feel like that image is going to help guide their work for the next 4 weeks as well. And of course, the last one is the beautiful wrap it all up image with the editing skills that you'll learn, the way to shape light, not just find the best window, but shape it to create some mood as well. And composition, of course. So
Well, one of the things I love about the workshops too is that we get to see you in action. So I think there's always so much value in seeing how another photographer approaches the way that they shoot, how they move around the subject. And so obviously there's going to be some behind the scenes watching you in action. So I think that's really valuable for people. Some beautiful editing videos are included as well, with some fantastic tips. Again, editing is one of those parts of photography that's almost a skill set in itself, like an art form. And I love, as we run those different workshops, getting to see how different photographers approach the tools, because there's not one way to do everything. So, I can say hand on heart that anyone who's even quite an experienced editor is going to learn some beautiful tips from how Sally approaches the final edits. But I feel like with food photography, it is something that we can do from home. Why should people take this workshop now in particular?
I just feel like it's, there's so much happening around us at the moment. The news cycle can be so busy and overwhelming. And just to find something that reconnects you to yourself, maybe your personal history like me, your kids, your family, when you cook, you're creating for the people around you, and it's an act of love. And I've always said it's an act of self-care to cook proper, nice food as well. So I think to be able to record that, zone the world and the noise out, and just play with your food in the best possible way, even though your mum told you not to, and then take those beautiful images. It's like a form of meditation, I think.
Yeah, having, I think, any kind of activity where you can zone out, concentrate what's in front of you, and then that added layer of playing. For me, when I'm behind the camera, it's the playing with the angles and the compositions and moving things around and finding that shot that's like, yes, when you know that you've got it, it's such a joyful feeling. And it is a great way to be able to kind of escape the the noisiness of what's going on around the world. So I also wanted to ask you, you have shot lots of different types of food. You've been working with different clients. Do you have a standout or a favorite either shoot or series of images with a dish that you've loved?
I love making the cozy shots. But my favorite client shoot was from early last year, working with a woman who has created, I guess, a women's lifestyle blog. It's probably the short way of describing it. And we worked in her home and with shared values, and she was sharing her Sicilian heritage in doing that, and beautiful photos, if I do say so myself. But it was just a home with flooded with beautiful light, beautiful color in the food. Her mum was there as well, and her niece. So there was lots of emotion. She had friends there. So there was lots of laughter, and it was a real lifestyle shoot as well. So it combined a few loves. So I'm always more nervous shooting people than food these days, and everything just came together really well because everyone was relaxed and happy because there was a lot of food in the middle of it all.
Yeah, I love that. It is a beautiful way to come together with other people. One of the things that I've really enjoyed in your images is when people are incorporated. So I know you say it's always a little more nerve-wracking when people are involved, but you have a gorgeous range of images where people are mixing or they're serving or they're interacting with the food. Tell us a little bit about what you think that extra element of having people in the frame adds to the storytelling around food photography.
Oh, I love hands. Absolutely love hands. If I could do a personal project, it would probably be to do with hands. I think they tell their own story, and we all use our hands when we're preparing food and eating food, and they capture memories. You see lines on hands, and they make you wonder about all the stories that are attached to that. So that's one of the reasons you often won't see a face in a lot of my images where there's a human element, because I want you to think about that as well. So there's one at Christmas with my son's partner holding a Christmas dish in her beautiful, fresh, young, gorgeous hands, and and then there's another one where last year's client, her mum was there. She was working the pizza dough, and there's the lifetime and the stories like tracks in her hands as she worked this beautiful, soft, smooth dough, and then there's life in her hands. That's yeah.
The contrast between the two. So
Yeah.
beautiful. And it does add that extra life, I think, to images as well, that makes you think something's happening at the time rather than a static shot. And so is that something that people are going to learn about in the workshop as well?
Absolutely. One of the things I'm quite big on is creating mood to make the mind wonder what's happening beyond the edges of the image by what they see in the image.
Love that. Ah, beautiful. Well, Sally, thank you so much for sharing with us today. And to everyone watching, if you are keen to take our next workshop, Mastering Food Photography, it's now open and on sale. There is a discount running for the early bird price. If you're in the Creativity Club, it is, of course, included as one of your workshops. And if you're interested in joining the Creativity Club, highly recommend that you jump in. We have a beautiful array of live workshops coming up for the rest of the year. And what we love about our CLG workshops is that you get to come into the group with the host. Sally is available to you throughout the month. You can share your images with other people. You have that accountability. And of course, you can ask questions along the way. But I just know you're going to love getting a taste of how Sally works. She's put together some beautiful lessons for you. So check it out now over on the Click Love Grow workshop. And we both look forward to seeing you inside the group. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.